Breaking news into CBS Sports HQ. The Miami Dolphins are officially releasing quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. New GM John Eric Sullivan made that announcement this morning. The Dolphins are still on the hook for $54 million in guaranteed money this season, as the move now closes the book on Tua's 6 seasons in Miami, finishing with 2 playoff appearances and 0 playoff wins. We continue the conversation and now bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, absolutely no surprise here at all. I know we've been expecting this for quite some time, but just the timing of this, the drop here on a Monday morning, are you surprised by that at all, of how the Dolphins are deciding to go about it?
No, because they're probably going to have to, it's an accounting trick, but they're probably going to have to use the option to make this more palatable, the dead money for them that they're going to be eating, $99 million spread out over 2 years. It's really just an accounting measure why they are doing it now. Now, the Dolphins over the last month or so have been trying to trade Tua Tagovailoa. They were going to be unable to trade him the conventional way, right? Which is, hey, we have a player. Hey, you have some draft picks. Let's swap. Instead, what they were going to have to do was trade Tua and then trade one of their draft picks in order for someone to take on that bloated contract. I'd spoken with one high-ranking executive with one NFL team who told me his team had been considering whether, and when I say considering, kicking around the idea of accepting a first-round pick and then some from the Miami Dolphins in order to take on Tua Tagovailoa's contract. Obviously, no team ultimately did that. It was going to be extremely difficult and such a long shot for anyone to do that. So now the Dolphins are faced with the largest dead cap hit in NFL history. You go back a couple years ago, and it was the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz. A couple years later, it was Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. And now this, Tua, $99 million in money that is not going to someone playing on your roster. Historic, but you're able to do it as an NFL team when you have the salary cap over $300 million. Again, that's going to be split up over the next 2 years. So no surprise that Tua is out of Miami. No surprise that it is happening right now. And now all eyes are on how Miami moves forward and how Tua moves forward.
Yeah, that $99 million, it's like we say that and you really think about it, and it's hard to even fathom that much money in just dead money situation. How does Miami go about still figuring out their roster with that cap hit, despite what the salary cap will be moving forward?
Yeah, depending on how they're ultimately going to split this up, let's just call it 50 for the sake of simple math. Tua is going to take up 1/6 of their roster space, 1/6 of their cap space, and not be there. And so when you have that, you have an issue where how many resources are you allocating to the quarterback position while keeping and fielding a competitive roster? We know that the Dolphins started selling off some pieces at the trade deadline back when they had an interim general manager just around Halloween, right? They almost dealt they did deal Jalen Phillips. They almost dealt Jalen Waddle, but then wound up not getting the return that they wanted for him, and so keeping him. So you look at the quarterback position, and are they going to have to go veteran quarterback, cheap veteran quarterback? Would that potentially be a Kyler Murray? I don't think Kyler necessarily wants to go there. We've been keeping an eye on Kyler Murray to the Minnesota Vikings, but they could get a quarterback at $1.3 million. The other option a lot of people have been keeping a close eye on, Malik Willis, former Green Bay Packer, who he was with John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley in Green Bay. Now those two are part of the brain trust in Miami. But what is his number going to be, and how much money do you devote to Malik Willis while still paying Tua to not be there? And so that is going to be the top name that you're wanting to keep an eye on with Miami. It's just going to be a matter of, could Arizona or could someone else outbid the Miami Dolphins for the services of Malik Willis?
So where does Tua fall in all this? Does he go somewhere to be a starter? Is it a backup role moving forward for him now and try to prove himself? What happens?
So his contract is subject to offsets, which means that the money that he was guaranteed by the Miami Dolphins, he is getting in 2026. And whatever team does sign him, they will be signing him for the veteran minimum of $1.3 million. That's what they will be on the hook for. And then the Miami Dolphins will still be on the hook for all of that money minus just a measly $1.3 million. So that's how much money Tua is going to sign with a new team for in the coming days. You have to imagine that he's probably going to be getting out of the AFC East. A lot of cold weather teams, open air stadiums. We know that he struggled in the cold. You look elsewhere, there aren't that many starting jobs that are available. Tua, with his injury history, with his reputation around the league, with his poor play down the stretch, I don't know that he's going to walk in anywhere and assume a week 1 starting role. But is he a viable backup if he fits into the team, into the locker room culture? If that team is not playing in Buffalo every week, right? Or in frostbite conditions in Kansas City. So you start looking around, okay, dome teams, warm weather teams, teams that typically play against teams in domes or in warm weather, and you start to narrow down the list, right, up to about half the NFL, maybe a third of the NFL. I would keep maybe somewhat of an eye on the Atlanta Falcons, who, yes, they have Michael Penix Jr., but he may or may not be ready by week 1. Falcons obviously don't want to spend that much money on a quarterback, but they are going to bring in a veteran, after Kirk Cousins, and now with the injury to Michael Penix Jr. with the knee. Maybe that could be a fit, playing there in that dome at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and in the NFC South. But this may take a couple more days before Tua ultimately finds his landing spot.
Yeah, certainly starting off what we already expected to be a busy day in the NFL, a busier day now with the Dolphins releasing Tua Tagovailoa. Jonathan Jones, thank you so much. I know we'll be seeing you coming up more here in the future, and this is the statement that the Dolphins put out, led by their GM, John Eric Sullivan, informing Tua, sharing with him he has great respect for the person and player he is, but he expressed gratitude for the many contributions during the 6 seasons in Miami. They now will work towards building a sustained winner. Morning Buzz, we are getting going with 3 Wide here. I'm Zach Aldridge, joined by Ben DiNucci and Logan Ryan. We are presented by Geico. It feels good to Geico, and we brought you guys out from the top because the news coming out just a few minutes ago, the Dolphins releasing Tua Tagovailoa and all the money that comes with them. We're not surprised by this at all, Ben, but you being our resident QB right here as it stands, you hear this news, what happens next? How do the Dolphins move forward?
Well, I think logically they've got to find where they want to go at the quarterback position, right? New head coach, new front office, some things are going to look different, feel different. I think what you've seen a couple years ago with the Denver Broncos and what they did with Russell Wilson and how that's worked out with Bo Nix on the rookie contract in the win now mode the last couple years, I think the Dolphins are going to be another one of these teams that are going to try that and say, hey, if there's a way we can get rid of this money, get Tua off our books, kind of restart that quarterback room, they're going to have to find a guy, whether free agency or draft now, to kind of fill that void and get some production.
Well, the Dolphins changed everything, right? They changed the GM, they changed the head coach, and now they're going to change the quarterback. And that's pretty much when a new regime comes in, and Ben can allude to this, when a new regime comes in the NFL, you better get ready. You better look out if you're a veteran in that locker room, because they are bringing change. A coach got fired because you didn't win enough prior, and that might have been your fault or not, but he's bringing his players, he's bringing his change, and that's going to be the quarterback position. And unlike the Broncos situation, though, I don't know if there's a Bo Nix that the Dolphins can draft, right? I don't know what this quarterback draft is outside of Fernando Mendoza. I don't know if the Dolphins trade up for Fernando Mendoza. That's maybe too early to speculate. But you got to think, if they're releasing Tua and all that dead cat, can we bring up the money of how much they got to pay Tua to not play for the Dolphins? I mean, they made a pretty quick decision here to move on from him, and it's a lot of money that they have to pay him. And what I think is they're going to nail someone in free agency. Yeah. They got a guy circled. Is it Malik Willis, right? Is it Mac Jones? Who is that next Sam Darnold? Who is that next guy that they saw the Seahawks? And then another thing, my last point in the NFL, it's a copycat league. You see Sam Darnold get revitalized. What he's done, won a Super Bowl. So do they feel like they can revitalize one of these quarterbacks like a Malik Willis, like a Mac Jones, to come down to Miami and give them a rebirth of their career?
They have Quinn Ewers on the roster. It is a $99 million dead cap hit, which is the largest in NFL history. They're on the books for $54 million in guaranteed money this season. Ben, just playing the position, like how bad does it have to be when we take that money and just throw it away? Because we were talking a little bit offset about, okay, is there really that much difference between a $1 million QB and a $60 million QB?
And I think that's the thing that's tough. The quarterback position, especially in the NFL, is such an imperfect science. There's so many variables. There's scouting departments and guys that are assigned to, what are these guys like on the field? What are these guys like off the field? Is the offense going to translate to college? Is the play style going to translate to the NFL? Whatever it may be. So for Tua, this isn't necessarily the end of the world. Yeah, it might suck right now. I'm sure when he got drafted there a couple years ago, first round, he wasn't thinking, hey, after a couple years, I'm going to be changing scenery, looking for a new spot to play. But we've seen it the last couple years. There's a blueprint. There's a roadmap for guys who change of scenery isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. So for Tua, another chance. Hopefully somebody out there is going to say, hey, guy's still young. The production's there. He's played some good football. Let's see if we can get him in the right system, the right guys around him, and see if we can have him be our guy.
It brings back to the point that the NFL is a copycat league. I looked at New England Patriots. They brought in a new coach, got a quarterback that they love. Look where they went, right? Look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Brought in a new coach. Look what happened. Look at the Chicago Bears, right? Ben Johnson gets the quarterback that they love. That pairing, right, between those two works out quickly. So I think Miami's saying, this is unprecedented dead cap. We've never seen it this much. Russell Wilson's the closest, but $99 million dead cap. Tua's getting $54 million to play for somebody else. And by the way, he cost that other team $0, maybe an offset of $1 million. The minimum for somebody else, the Dolphins got to pay him the rest, right? So they are moving on from him. They are literally kicking him out the door, moving on from him, restarting without him. Hopefully, because fans feel like, we're just a quarterback and a coach away from going to the Super Bowl, baby. The Patriots just did it. Anyone can do it. It's not that easy, but that's been the trend of late. A lot of great coaches got hired last cycle, and you saw how quick of a turnaround that is. Clearly, Miami's looking for a quick turnaround here.
So where does Tua fit into all this? Where should he look to say, all right, I think I can revitalize my career. I can make that Sam Darnold type turnaround. And not even that his lows have been as low as Darnold's, but what's next for him?
The interesting thing about Tua and his situation is I'm not sure he's going to be in a position to necessarily pick where he wants to go. So I think one of these teams that's looking for maybe a bridge veteran guy, I'm looking at the Vikings, the Jets, the Browns, kind of one of these teams that have been in quarterback purgatory the last couple years and are looking for a guy that's played ball, a veteran, been around, can kind of tutor, mentor one of these young guys if they decide to go that way in the draft. And the big thing for one of these other teams is it's not going to cost them a lot of money to go and get a Tua. So you're not going to have to take the contract on. You're going to pay him vet minimum for him to come in, compete. But I think for Tua, his game, he's rhythm-based. He's a progression-based quarterback. So for him, the fit's got to be right. The coach has got to be right. And you got to have some playmakers around you.
I agree. It's a pecking order, right? I think there's a quarterback order here, and Kyler Murray's at the top of that order. Mac Jones is up there at the top of that order. People are saying Malik Willis is up there at the top of the order. I wouldn't put him up there with Kyler Murray, in my opinion, playing against those guys. But Tua's got to see what's open next, right? Minnesota's got to fill some spots. Obviously, Miami's got to fill some spots. The Jets got to fill some spots. I'm looking at Atlanta, right? Atlanta's a place where you talk about a bridge, but Malik Willis is a lefty. Right, they've got to prepare to have a lefty quarterback. He's coming back from injury. I don't know if Kirk Cousins is going to be in Atlanta either. That could be another moving piece. I'm looking at the Jets, right? Who do the Jets end up with? Are they able to get Kyler Murray or Malik Willis? If not, do they have to settle on Tua? But how crazy is it that we're talking about tanking for Tua 5-6 years ago? Yeah. Now we're settling for Tua, and we're having Malik Willis ranked higher than Tua. So if I'm a GM, I might say, hey, Tua has some good ball left in him. Maybe Arizona, maybe the Jets, maybe Atlanta are a team, because he doesn't cost them much. Remind you, he's coming for like 1 penny. You can get Tua on the low right now. Yeah. It might be a good deal.
You can get me for the same price. No one wants Tua. They can get me for the league low too.
Ben DiNucci is available, has a little bit of tenure under his belt. Do you want to give a pitch real quick to the Dolphins? We are here in Fort Lauderdale, not far from where they play and practice. Anything you want to get off your chest real quick?
Hey, look, I was just in the AFC Championship.
Okay.
One of 4 teams left. I must have done something right the last 12 months to put myself in that position. The arm still works. Threw a little WD-40 on it last week. So if a team out there needs somebody to come in, be a locker room guy, be a backup who's been there, done that, call me.
Character guy, Ben DiNucci. We like that.
He said the league low, though. Don't say you can't negotiate at the bottom.
I've never hit free agency. Those are 2 words I've never heard in my career.
Too soon, man.
This is the closest I've been to free agency.
I like the way that you give that pitch, though, because it's so interesting with all the QBs out there in the market. When you look at the pecking order, you see these guys' games. Who do you like the most between a Kyler Murray, between a Tua, a Mac Jones, a Malik Willis, Anthony Richardson wants to be traded? How do you view all those guys?
I think the 2 names that you're going to be heard that are going to be thrown around more than others, Malik Willis, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, I think the athleticism, the playmaking ability, first-round pick, pops off the screen, a Lamar Jackson athlete, right? And the other, Malik Willis, is the guy I trained with a bunch in college. Physical stature reminds me of Cam Newton, one of these bigger, broad-shoulder body types. Can sling it, can run it, great dude. I've been around him a couple times, been an honor to kind of get to know him a little bit, see him play. But the crazy thing about quarterback in the NFL is it's what have you done for me now? Tua was a first rounder 6 years ago, 5 years ago when I came into the league in 2020. Now we're looking at him as, hey, we got to see where some of these other guys potentially go, and then Tua, you're going to have to kind of get in where you fit in. So the NFL is a win now league. A lot of these quarterbacks, Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, Malik Willis, at least his best ball he just played this past season when Jordan Love wasn't able to play. Kyler's played some good ball in his career, but I look at those couple names in terms of quarterbacks that are out there that I would imagine are going to start to fall before we see a Tua find his spot.
Do you feel the same way as you kind of alluded to that earlier?
Yeah, look, the top two for me, in my opinion, these are guys I competed against, and number one would be Kyler Murray. And I can't speak on his personality. I wasn't his teammate. I know that's been some of the issue. But as a player, game planning him, it takes time. He is ridiculously quick, ridiculously fast. He obviously has extreme talent. You know his history in high school, his history in college, his history as a baseball player. He's a supreme athlete. He has some special gas left in that tank. I know having to game plan him, we had some serious rules that we cannot let him scramble because it's different when he does that. The next one I would say above Malik Willis for me is Mac Jones. Mac Jones is a decisive decision maker. He does not have the athleticism of the other guys, but he knows where to go with the ball. You put Mac Jones in Minnesota's system with those type of receivers, you saw what he did in San Francisco's system, and they're similar, right? He can still deliver the ball, but there's going to be a wide open free agency. There's going to be tons of quarterbacks out there, and probably more than we're used to seeing in terms of veterans bounce from side to side. But Kyler Murray, Mac Jones, those top two for me, I think can change the franchise quickly.
Yeah, you mentioned free agency. We didn't even get into what y'all were going to originally talk about here today with the NFL legal tampering window opening up at noon. But, of course, as we get closer and closer to that today, we will continue that conversation. If anyone's asking me, I've got DiNucci at the top of my list of all the available QBs. Take a look at Tua Tagovailoa's numbers since 2022 under Mike McDaniel. It was good in the beginning, not so good in the end. That's why neither of them are still down here in South Florida.